witness one here. Yeah, big storm's about to move in out here. It's always a storm. That last video I dropped you guys, a windstorm came through, almost brought me in back here. Another huge windstorm. I showed you that one in the last one. But some of you guys have been battling in a lot of witchcraft, But like my buddy Ryan out there, boy, he's diligent about fighting them. As far as I seen, though, I haven't seen too many people really doing much fighting or whatever. The TI community is, I pray for them guys, but a lot of them, they're just regular old guys trying to make it through. They realize it's a no-win situation, I feel sorry for a lot of them are lost too, like gang stalking, simulation. That guy, he's completely lost. He's got a lot of good information though, but a lot of people are getting stalked just because that's just the way things are nowadays. You just no telling how you fall when the quantum computer decides that you said something they didn't like, or you looked up something. I know I was listening to one guy who was a TI. He wasn't into any kind of spiritual thing. He just had a bunch of stories about how he was involved with Masons and stuff like that. And he said he just looked up, he was a doctor too, and he said he looked up conspiracy theories on the internet, and that's the only thing he could think of. And the next thing you know, he was slowly being stalked. And he'll end up losing everything just because he looked up conspiracy theories. Me personally, I'll go around battling all of them, giant and large groups of them. Have for a long time. Whole cities. I go into an area, into a city, I'm there for spiritual warfare, period. The end. I've had people pull up and have sex in vehicles beside me, doing sex magic. I had them hanging outside my car. I caught a black guy one time, warlock, with 2 giant pit bull dogs, smoking pot, literally almost leaning on my car. I've had some of the craziest stuff in the world happen to me. But I'm trying to search out these portals and figure out this portal situation, because they're everywhere, And like over there, when I was talking about Wallace, Idaho, that place is a portal. It's called the Center of the Universe. And if you do the research on it, you'll find out there's only 2 spots in the United States of America that claims that prize of Center of the Universe. And they're portals. You understand? Portals to heaven, portals to the underground. They're portals. And, usually in a portal area, I was just in Portland. What do you think that spells? Portland, there's portal in there. It's a portal. They got that Mount Hood and Mount St. Helens and all that stuff around there. And I actually even went down to Salem, south of Portland. Battled them witches there. I was doing jobs where I'd show up, and the witches would all show up in a whole coven that they had set me up on a job that I got on the internet. And they'd all be wearing witches of Salem shirts on them. So, I'm constantly fighting covens. And, beyond that even, because I look up, do spiritual warfare with the Illuminati, all them devils. I look them all up. I look up all the Masons in the area, find their names, and I'm doing some work on them. I promise you. And, I look up who's leading all the Vatican over there. And, this thing's got levels, like I told you. There's only one other man I ever knew who ever took on the Illuminati, and they got him. And the man, he was a powerful man of the Lord. And he died. They got him he had to fast so much that he died from complications from fasting. And, that's what you got to do. I've been out here 5 years in a row doing 3 to 5 hours of spiritual warfare every single day. And it's draining. When you get done with it, you are freaking tapped. And stuff happens. You know, stuff happens. For instance, because, who's involved with it? For me, it's the military on top of, everyone else. The witches, and it's everywhere. I mean, even the president and Donald Trump's wife came out the other day saying she had nothing to do with Epstein, and everybody all pulls out video and everything proving she had everything to do with Epstein that you could possibly imagine. And they're just, these evil people are being exposed, but ain't nobody doing nothing about it. And the funny thing is all of them are evil people. 70 years ago, all those people who were in charge were the same way. You know what I'm saying? And people don't care, Everyone's a narcissist nowadays, especially if you're an American. And so, you got to look up and search deep what these people believe and what they think, This stuff ain't gonna last much longer with that Iranian war and them gas prices getting jacked up and everything. And no fertilizer. I told you the famine is coming. These are all preludes to what's really going to happen. And Babylon's going to fall, you guys. Babylon is going to fall. And when she does, she's going to come down like a mighty oak with a loud banging noise, and that will be the end. People will be eating each other, like I said. And, you gotta pull up tighten the belt loop and pull them bootstraps up real hard and tight, because it's gonna get rough. You're gonna have to do things that you're uncomfortable with. Like me, I ain't comfortable with none of this. You know what I'm saying? I've been out here 4,000 plus days, way over 4,000 days doing this stuff, and I ain't seen nobody else out here doing it. So, and it's everywhere. Town to town, little bitty town is adjacent to the next town. All the cops are involved with it, every single one of them. Look at some of my videos. It's everywhere. The gang stalking is off the charts, and everybody is going to be on this program. And they're building those data centers and those chip factories right next to all where the government's buying all those giant facilities to house all those ICE people. Did an investigation on that the government is spending billions of dollars buying all these facilities to put all these immigrants in all over the country. But these places are within 50 miles of each of these places. They're building those neural monitoring chip centers real close to them. They're chipping everybody. They're chipping your kids, they're chipping your dog. A lot of these people, they're programmed and already neural monitored already. You see, this stuff ain't just happening to us, it's happening to everybody. We just get shocked and stuff because we're exposing it all. They're already under it. We were probably under it before, we came to before we woke up, from the awakening. And I couldn't get down this road. I've been stuck in the same spot for a while. See that tree up there? It fell on the road after that big windstorm, and I was blocked from going down here. And yesterday, this guy's come up, it's like 7:30 last night, cut this tree out of the way, and they were out here till like 10:30 last night with headlamps on cutting firewood. Who comes and cuts firewood in the middle of the night at 10:30 at night and with headlamps? Tweakers, gang stalkers. They all know I'm up here. For the most part, they left me alone. Now, it has been increasing a little bit. And I have been getting a lot of phone calls for work, because as soon as I leave out of an area, that whole area explodes trying to call me back to come back. Because they want to watch you 24/7. And see that tree? Here's the rest of it. I couldn't cross the road here for way over a week after that windstorm. Another windstorm. See those big logs? Look at that. Now, that sucker's big. So, move out of the way. But you don't ever know They can control the weather. Satan and all of them. You know. You guys need to do the research on what these Masons believe. Look up Bill Cooper. Now, don't listen to a thing about what Bill Cooper says about the Lord. He was a New Ager. Or look up Jordan Maxwell. And they will tell you everything you need to know about them secret societies and what they think and what they believe. They know everything about that. But these guys are New Agers. They think they know the Bible and the ways of the Lord and all. See, but the Bible says the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God. It is foolishness to him, nor can he know it because it's spiritually discerned. That means you got to have the Holy Spirit and God to interpret the Bible. Otherwise, the Bible is just a bunch of stories and foolishness. And they were trying to break the Bible down, but they didn't know anything about it. They just thought they did. They didn't have the Spirit of God to interpret it. You have to have the Holy Spirit to interpret what it means. But they did know about those secret societies, what they were up to, and everything else, and they were dead on with that stuff. So you want to know what they're thinking, you got to know your enemy, like the Art of War. Sun Tzu wrote that book. You got to know who your enemy is, and you got to know what they're thinking, what they believe, and all that. Believe me, they know what you believe. So, and it's a complex hodgepodge of different gods and beliefs. And it's like the space program and NASA and all that. That's all occult stuff, dude. They named that Artemis mission after the gods and everything else. They're doing stuff with that moon and using that witchcraft to do things. And everybody's got them on an agenda, you know. Believe that. And the agenda don't necessarily coincide with the other cult's agenda, but they deal with each other because they work like a well-oiled machine to keep this thing rolling like it does. So you need to keep that in mind when you're, you know, dealing with all these people, if and when. Now, if you think you're a child of God and you're not going through none of this stuff, you're probably not going to make it. Believe me. I just personally, I want to believe that there's a lot of people who are going to make it into the kingdom of heaven. But the fact of the matter is all these places, all these towns where all these Christians say they live, it's so full of the occult, and they're running around having the occult having a revival, hurting and killing children and murdering and doing just whatever they want to do, and they ain't doing nothing about it. Their idea of it all is this is what they think. Bless me and my wife, this is what they pray. Bless my son John and his wife, us four, no more. Acts 2:4, amen. So, I mean, that's really what you're dealing with there. Most of those people in church, they're not going to make it. The church is a false church system that's in cahoots with the government, which is in cahoots with the occult. You understand? They will not compromise anything for that money. They want your money. And you're already taxed hard enough. And things are going up higher and everything. Do not give your money away to these preachers and these people online who are TIs begging for money, wanting bigger platform. Do not give them yet. They will milk you dry and you will never see that money ever again. But if you do give money, which is, ultimately up to you, just remember, don't ever expect that money back. Don't ever expect it back. I have helped a few people out when I was in bad need, but seldom did I ever receive anything back, if at all, Now, I'm in a bad way out here doing this stuff, all the time. So, you need to remember to fast and pray. Fasting, they go through great lengths to try to get me not to fast. And I'm aware that I get stuff on my phone about food all the time. Back when I got my the windstorm when I was staying in the cabin that wrecked my car happened. I was on a 15-day fast. Then, we get 80-mile-an-hour wind storm. It was totally Satan coming against me, the occult, and Catholics, and Jehovah's, and Mormons. You see, the Mormons believe the same thing as every Mormon. Joseph Smith was a Mormon, was a Mason. So every Mormon, every one of them, there's like 16, 17 million in the United States, is a Mason, okay? And I think I did the research on a Mason, and it said it was like 17 million Masons too. And that's only the ones that they're claiming, you know what I'm saying? So, you're talking about, a giant army of people, that's 40 million known Masons, you know what I'm saying? All those Masons, those Mormons, they are Masons. They believe the exact same thing as a Mason does, so they believe they're gods. They believe they can create their own planets. They believe that the Son of God is the Sun Ra, the sun. And when the sun goes when the sun rises, it hits the 30th degree in the zodiac, right? So when you become a 30-degree Mason, you find these things out, that the sun rises and hits the 30th degree in the zodiac. That's when Jesus was 30. He started his ministry. And when it leaves out of the zodiac, it's at the 33rd degree. That's why there's 33rd degree Mason, right? And when the sun goes into Virgo, that's when the sun goes into the Virgin Mary. And you don't find these things out about these guys unless you do a lot of studying and what they believe. See, they believe that man was an innocent creature back in the day, but then he had an original thought, and the original thought he had, that was sin. They believe all these weird things that line up with the Bible. Because, see, the Masons got a Bible. I used to have a Masonic Bible. My cousin gave it to me. It was a Mason Bible, had the Mason symbols on the front of it. And they start you with the Bible, believing in Jesus and the Son. And then once you get up high enough in the ranks, which they don't allow, most of all the Masons are they'll never make it more than a third degree Mason. They decide who becomes 33rd degree Mason. So when that happens, the upper echelon of them, like examples of 33 degree Masons, Buzz Aldrin, the moonwalker guy, supposedly, he was a Mason, 33 degree Mason, out of Alabama. The guy who run the rocket program, Apollo missions and all that, he was a 33 degree Mason. See how they get these positions of authority everywhere? And so most of them are just foot soldiers for them. The ones I've seen, they've been, they're poor as hell. They got cars that barely can run, dude. And it's hilarious, I met one guy who I work with him. You see, all my jobs are set up, so I just play stupid and I get information from these clowns. It just adds to my repertoire of weapons to help and knowledge to help, for future battles. And that's what they do. They set these jobs up, get on there. I think they try to make friends with me, or try to get to know what I'm thinking, or I don't, they do all kind of weird stuff, And, I get tired and sick of them. And so I just, usually play dumb with them and get information, But also I show them that I know everything there is to know about, what they're doing. And the snow's on the road up here still, so can't get back to where I want to, but I don't know that I even want to go back there. I done a lot of warfare back there back in the day. But you see up here, These fools have to spend a lot of money and go a long ways to come do the warfare up here. They have to come to me. You know, when you're in town, they get to call. They chase you around all day long, meet you over here. It's no big deal. But out here, it is. Because it's a long ways, a lot of money, and a lot of time to send people out here. And plus all the jet fuel they use, you know, monitoring. And, you know, the satellite, it can't be easy them having to follow you around with that satellite all the time. You know, when they have to be having eyes on Iran and the things, everything else. And don't think that that quantum computer can not keep an eye on everything all at one time, because the technology's there. So, you know, gotta always remember those things and keep in mind that, you know, we're in a war and it's just gonna get tougher. So, you know, like I said, you're gonna have to make up your mind now and start, you know, working towards your goals in Jesus. You know, instead of procrastinate, the time is now to rise up, because it's just getting harder and harder and harder and harder, especially on the ones who are out here trying to do something, you know. And a lot of this stuff, you know, you might not understand it. You know, the further I go along, the less I understand with it all. The more knowledge I gain, and I do understand, but I understand that there's not too many people out there who are out here fighting this evil. None at all. You know, I can only recall, you know, maybe a few small handful of people who are doing it that I know of, you know. And the rest of them are just, everybody just trying to survive. And I get it, you know, I get it. You know, and I'm not saying some of those guys that don't love the Lord, like I was talking about King Justice, and, you know, I don't agree with everything these guys are doing and saying. You know, I was pretty hard. I mean, lately I've been hard on my guy, my homie, Felix from Welcome to the Awakening, because I ain't believing on the things that he's saying. Those are not truths for me. That's occult stuff that I guess he just doesn't understand. I used to say about 90% of his stuff was solid. Now I'm thinking, you know, 70. You know, so, and it changes. We change, we evolve. We don't know. We don't have experiences. So I get it, you know. I've been hard on King Justice, you know. Really am. Have been, you know. But he's just young. I remember when I was young like him, and I probably did a lot of the same things that he did. Don't get me wrong, you know, about him. But, you know, some of them are just, you know, manipulating and using everybody. And I just call that crap out because it's the truth, you know. And he's young and good looking, and all the girls like him and all that. And I get all that stuff, you know. But, you know, he needs to man up. It's time to man up. You know, not that he's not doing what he's supposed to be in the Lord, but man, it's time to stop manipulating people, get a job. Even I have to go to work. You know what I'm saying? That stuff ain't come to me like that. You know, and not that I would take it, because I try to be honest and fair in all my dealings that I do. But, you know, I get taken advantage of all the time. I get calls for work, and they're just complete setups. I get these feelings, you know, like, if you get, you know, people calling you, wanting you to do something, you got to be careful, man. Because when you, on the levels that I am, you know, I'm level 5 in the gang stalking program, where, you know, it's elimination time. You know, there's levels, like I said, to this. And beyond that, there's even levels beyond that. I'm in level 5 in the gang stalking program with the government. But I'm in death mode with everything else, with the Catholics and the Jehovah's and witnesses and the Mormons and the witches and warlocks, the wizards, the witch doctors, and the Illuminati. Yeah, I'm way past level 5 with him. I promise you. Because I take them fools on all the time. And so, you know, you gotta do what it takes. So, and it's time to wake up, you know, and smell the coffee, because it's not getting easier out here. I've been having a hard time loading these videos up, so I'm just getting them out as I can to you. Peace and love to all y'all, and I'm praying for you. Bless you, bye.